Welcome to True Crime Stories by Pam. Look at this woman. She's on national television. Tears streaming down her face. Begging for her missing daughter to come home. Please, she says. Please bring my Shannon back. I just want my baby home. The entire nation is watching. The entire nation sympathizes. 200 police officers are searching. Thousands of volunteers are combing through parks and woods. The community has raised £50,000 as a reward. It's the biggest missing child case in England since Madeleine McCann. But here's what nobody knows. This crying mother knows exactly where her daughter is. For 24 days, 9-year-old Shannon Matthews is drugged and hidden inside the base of a bed in a filthy apartment. For 24 days, her mother plays the devastated parent on television. For 24 days, this woman fools an entire country. And when the truth finally comes out, it will destroy a community's faith in humanity. I am Pam. And this is the story of the fake kidnapping that shocked Britain. The mother who hid her own child for money. And the tiny mistake that exposed the worst plan ever devised. Stay with me because this story will make you question everything you think you know about a mother's love. February 2008. The Moorside estate in Dewsbury, West Yorkshire. This is a working-class neighborhood. Rows of identical council houses. Not wealthy. Not poor. Just regular families trying to get by. At number 24 Moorside Road lives Karen Matthews. She's 32 years old. She has 7 children by 5 different fathers. She's currently living with Craig Meehan, a 22-year-old supermarket fishmonger who's the father of her youngest child. Money is always tight. The house is always chaotic. 7 kids in a small council house makes for a loud, messy, stressful life. But Karen manages. Barely. She's on welfare benefits. Gets help from social services. The house isn't always clean and the kids don't always have the newest clothes, but they're fed. They go to school. By all accounts, despite everything, Karen loves her children. Or at least that's what everyone thinks. Because in a few days, Karen is going to do something that will prove love sometimes comes with conditions. And the condition is £50,000 in reward money. February 19, 2008. It's a Tuesday afternoon. 9-year-old Shannon Matthews attends Westmore Junior School. Today she's had a swimming lesson at the local sports center. At 3:10 p.m., Shannon is seen outside her school. She's wearing her school uniform. She's with friends. Everything seems normal. The school is only half a mile from home. Shannon has walked this route hundreds of times. But today, Shannon never makes it home. At 6:48 p.m., Karen Matthews calls the police. My daughter is missing. She left school at 3:10 and she hasn't come home. I don't know where she is. Please help me find her. West Yorkshire police respond immediately. Officers begin searching the area. They knock on doors. They check parks. They search bushes and alleys. Karen is frantic. Or at least she appears to be. She's crying. Shaking. She keeps saying, "Where's my baby? Where's my Shannon?" Neighbors come out to help. Someone suggests calling more people. Getting the word out. By midnight, dozens of volunteers are searching. Flashlights cutting through the darkness. Everyone calling Shannon's name. Everyone hoping to hear a little girl's voice answer back. But there's no answer. Shannon has vanished. And an entire community is about to be pulled into the most elaborate con in British criminal history. By the next morning, West Yorkshire police have launched a massive operation. This isn't a routine missing child case anymore. Shannon has been gone for over 12 hours. No sightings. No leads. No clues. Detective Superintendent Andy Brennan takes charge of the investigation. He assigns over 200 officers to the search. They bring in specialized units. Underwater search teams. Victim recovery dogs trained to find bodies. Forensic experts. This is now the biggest police operation in West Yorkshire since the hunt for the Yorkshire Ripper in the 1970s. The media descends on Moorside Estate. News vans line the street. Reporters interview neighbors. Cameras film everything. Karen Matthews becomes the face of the story. She does interview after interview. She pleads on camera for Shannon's safe return. She organizes vigils. She helps hand out missing person flyers. She wears a t-shirt with Shannon's photo on it. She looks devastated. Broken. Desperate. And the entire nation's heart breaks for her. Nobody suspects that behind those tears is a woman counting down the days until she can claim her reward money. Karen's neighbor and friend Julie Bushby steps up to help organize the community search. Julie is a force of nature. She's determined. Organized. Passionate. She creates a command center at the local Residents Association Hall. She coordinates search parties. She makes t-shirts with Shannon's photo. She contacts local businesses for donations. She gets the word out on social media. Within days, the search for Shannon Matthews is a national story. Hundreds of volunteers show up to help search. People come from other cities. Other counties. Everyone wants to help find this little girl. Julie becomes Karen's closest supporter. She's at Karen's house constantly. Making tea. Answering the phone. Dealing with media. Organizing vigils. She truly believes in Karen. Believes she's a devastated mother doing everything possible to find her child. Julie even starts calling Karen her best friend. She tells reporters that Karen is holding up amazingly well considering the circumstances. That she's staying strong for her other children. That she just wants Shannon home. Julie has no idea that she's being used. That Karen is manipulating her just like she's manipulating everyone else. And when the truth comes out, Julie's betrayal will be absolute. The search intensifies. Police question 1,500 motorists who were in the area on February 19th. They search over 3,000 houses. They check every garden. Every shed. Every abandoned building. Underwater search teams drag ponds and waterways. Helicopters with thermal imaging fly over the area. Sniffer dogs trained to detect human remains are brought in. The operation costs £3.2 million. That's over $4 million US. All to find one 9-year-old girl who everyone assumes has been taken by a predator. A stranger. A monster. But there are some odd clues that police are trying to make sense of. Shannon's friends tell investigators that she talked about running away. That she'd written on her bedroom wall that she wanted to see her biological father more. That home life was sometimes stressful with so many siblings. Detectives wonder if Shannon ran away and then something bad happened. Or if she's hiding somewhere. But then days turn into a week. Then 2 weeks. And the hope of finding Shannon alive starts to fade. Everyone begins preparing for the worst. Everyone except Karen, who keeps insisting Shannon will come home. Because Karen knows something nobody else knows. Karen Matthews appears on multiple TV shows. The View, BBC News, ITV News. Every major outlet wants to interview her. And Karen gives them exactly what they want. A devastated mother making emotional pleas. But some people are starting to notice something odd. Detective Constable Christine Freeman is assigned to be the family liaison officer. She spends hours with Karen every day. And she starts to see inconsistencies. Karen cries during press conferences, but the tears don't always seem real. Karen's friend Natalie Brown notices it too. Natalie sees Karen dancing when a phone rings. Smiling during serious moments. Acting inappropriately for someone whose child is missing. At a community march for Shannon, Natalie watches Karen smile and wave at cameras like she's enjoying the attention. When Natalie confronts Karen about this, Karen gets defensive. Says she's just trying to stay positive. Trying to keep hope alive. But Natalie's instincts are screaming that something is wrong. Very wrong. She just can't put her finger on what it is yet. She'll find out soon. And when she does, it will shatter her completely. 1 mile away from Moorside Estate, in a neighborhood called Batley Car, there's a shabby council flat. The tenant is a 39-year-old man named Michael Donovan. He's Craig Meehan's uncle. He's related to Karen's boyfriend. He's been to family gatherings at Karen's house. He knows Shannon. And right now, at this very moment while police are searching everywhere for Shannon, she's in his apartment. Hidden. Drugged. Terrified. Shannon is tethered to a support beam with a strap. Like a dog on a leash. She's kept in a dark room. She's given sleeping pills to keep her quiet and docile. She's not allowed to leave. Not allowed to make noise. She doesn't understand what's happening. She keeps asking to go home. Asking for her mom. But Michael tells her she can't. Not yet. Just a little longer. He feeds her. Makes sure she doesn't die. But this isn't kindness. This is keeping her alive long enough to collect the money. £50,000. Split between Michael Donovan and Karen Matthews. That was the deal. That was the plan. And it's going exactly as planned. Days turn into weeks. The search continues, but momentum is slowing. Volunteers are exhausted. Some are losing hope. Police are running out of places to look. The media coverage shifts from hope to tragedy. Reporters start using words like body and recovery. Karen keeps making appeals, but even she seems to be running out of energy. Behind the scenes, she's starting to panic. The plan was supposed to work by now. Michael was supposed to have found Shannon, taken her to the police. Claimed the reward. But Michael is scared. The police presence is too heavy. There are too many cameras. He's afraid if he surfaces with Shannon, they'll immediately be suspicious. So Shannon stays hidden. Day after day. Week after week. She's being given to Mazepam, a powerful sleeping medication. Shannon is confused. Scared. She cries for her mother. She doesn't understand why this is happening. Why she can't go to school. Why she can't see her brothers and sisters. Michael keeps telling her it will be over soon. Just a little longer. But Shannon's nightmare is far from over. And for Karen, the clock is ticking. Soon, someone is going to make a mistake. And the whole elaborate scheme is going to collapse. Police continue interviewing family members. They talk to Craig Meehan, Karen's boyfriend. They talk to Craig's relatives. They make a list of everyone connected to the family. At some point, they interview some of Craig's relatives about their whereabouts on February 19th, but there's one person they somehow miss. Michael Donovan. Craig's uncle. They never get around to calling him in for an interview. It's not intentional. It's just that there are so many family members and the investigation is so massive that Michael slips through the cracks. But this oversight is about to become significant. A relative calls Michael. Just making casual conversation. Mentions that police interviewed him about Shannon's disappearance. They're talking to everyone, the relative says. I assume they called you too. And Michael makes a fatal mistake. He says no. They haven't called me. The relative finds this strange. Why would police interview some family members but not others? Why would they skip Michael specifically? Something about this doesn't sit right. The relative thinks about it for a while. And then makes a decision that will crack this case wide open. He calls the police and mentions this odd detail. That Michael Donovan, Craig's uncle, hasn't been interviewed yet. And maybe they should check on that. March 14, 2008. Police get two important tips. First, the relatives call about Michael Donovan not being interviewed. Second, a neighbor from Michael's building calls to report strange noises. The neighbor lives in the flat below Michael. She's been hearing what sounds like a child walking around upstairs. Children's footsteps. Pacing. Back and forth. But Michael doesn't have children. He lives alone. The neighbor finds it suspicious. She calls police. Tells them what she's been hearing. And police put two and two together. Michael Donovan. Craig Meehan's uncle. Never interviewed. Living alone. With child's footsteps coming from his flat. Officers race to Michael's address in Batley car. They pound on the door. Police. Open up. Michael doesn't answer. They pound again. We know you're in there. They can hear movement inside. They announce they're coming in. They break down the door and rush inside. The flat is a disaster. Filthy. Disgusting. Papers everywhere. But no sign of a child. Officers search room by room. Nothing in the kitchen. Nothing in the bathroom. Nothing in the living room. They're starting to think this was a false alarm. And then they hear it. A small voice. Muffled. Scared. Stop it. You're scaring me. The officers freeze. And they realize the voice is coming from under the bed. The bed is a divan. That's a bed with storage space in the base. Officers lift the mattress and find that the base has been modified. There's a hidden compartment. Like a secret drawer. And inside that compartment, curled up small and terrified, is Shannon Matthews. She's alive. She's dirty. She's clearly been drugged. But she's alive. Officers carefully pull her out. It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe now. We're police. We're going to take you home. Shannon is confused. Disoriented. She doesn't fully understand what's happening. She's been hidden away for 24 days. Sedated. Kept in darkness. Her ordeal is over. But the investigation is just beginning. Michael Donovan is immediately arrested, charged with kidnapping and false imprisonment. He's taken to the police station. And within hours, he's going to say something that will shock everyone. Something that will turn this entire case upside down. Because Michael Donovan is not going to take the fall alone. He's going to give up his accomplice. And when he does, a grieving mother's performance is going to be exposed as one of the most shameless frauds in British history. Michael Donovan sits in the interrogation room. He knows he's caught. The evidence is overwhelming. Shannon was found in his flat, hidden under his bed. There's no way to explain this away. So Michael makes a decision. He's going to tell the truth. And he's going to make sure he's not the only one going down. When detectives ask him why he took Shannon, Michael doesn't hesitate. He blurts it out. Get Karen down here. We had a plan. We're sharing the money. £50,000. She was in on it. The whole thing was her idea. Detectives look at each other. Karen Matthews. The grieving mother who's been on television for 3 weeks. The woman who organized search parties. Who pleaded for her daughter's return. She was in on it. Michael insists yes. He tells them everything. How Karen approached him with the plan. How she said they could make money from the reward. How he was supposed to keep Shannon for a while and then discover her somewhere public. How they'd split the £50,000 reward that had been raised. How this was all about money. Just money. The detectives are stunned. But they need to verify Michael's story before they can move on Karen. April 7, 2008. 3 weeks after Shannon was found. Police have been investigating Michael's claims. They've checked phone records. They've analyzed behavior. They've interviewed family members. And everything points to Michael telling the truth. On this day, police arrive at Karen Matthews' house. Karen, you're under arrest on suspicion of perverting the course of justice and child neglect. Karen acts shocked. What? No. I didn't do anything. Why are you doing this? But she's taken to the police station. And the media erupts. Karen Matthews arrested. The grieving mother. How is that possible? The Moorside estate is in shock. Julie Bushby can't believe it. She defends Karen publicly. Says there must be a mistake. Says Karen would never do this. But Detective Constable Christine Freeman sits down with Karen for an interview. And she asks Karen a simple question. Did you call 999 as part of an act to make it look like Shannon was missing when you really knew she wasn't? And after a long pause, Karen nods. Yes. She agrees. People will hate me for what I've done, Karen says through tears. I've disgraced the kids. The confession is clear. Karen Matthews orchestrated her own daughter's kidnapping. For money. Just for money. November 2008. Karen Matthews and Michael Donovan go on trial together at Leeds Crown Court. The prosecution lays out the entire scheme. How Karen approached Michael with the plan. How they decided to use Shannon because she was old enough to cooperate but young enough to generate sympathy. How Michael kept Shannon hidden and drugged for 24 days. How the plan was for Michael to eventually release Shannon at Dewsbury Market, then drive around the corner, discover her, and take her to the police station to claim the £50,000 reward. How they'd split the money. 50% each. The prosecution paints a picture of a cold, calculated strategy. They show the jury the strap used to tether Shannon. They show the hidden compartment in the divan bed. They explain that this wasn't an impulsive act, but a carefully rehearsed con. They argue that Karen wasn't a victim of circumstances, but the architect of her daughter's misery. The court is silent as the details of the kidnap kit found in Michael's flat are revealed. But the physical evidence is only half the story. The toxicology reports are about to reveal something even darker. The most horrifying moment of the trial comes from the scientific evidence. Hair analysis reveals that Shannon hadn't just been drugged during the 24 days of the kidnapping. She had temazepam in her system for months, possibly up to 20 months before she went missing. This bombshell stops the courtroom cold. This means Karen had been systematically dosing her own child with powerful sedatives to keep her compliant long before the fake kidnapping ever started. Temazepam is a strong benzodiazepine. It causes confusion, memory loss, and sedation. Giving this to a developing child is incredibly dangerous. The prosecution argues this proves Karen's abuse was long-term and systematic. The kidnapping wasn't a one-off mistake, it was the escalation of years of neglect and control. The jury looks at Karen differently after this. She's not just a greedy schemer anymore. She is a woman who chemically restrained her own child for nearly 2 years. When it's time for the defense, Karen and Michael turn on each other viciously. Michael claims Karen threatened him with violence if he didn't help. He says she was the mastermind, the boss, and he was just a terrified pawn doing what he was told. Karen, in turn, claims Michael is a liar. She says she asked him to look after Shannon for a few days because she was planning to leave Craig, but had no idea he would hide her or drug her. She denies knowing about the reward money plan entirely. The problem is, Karen's story keeps changing. The prosecution highlights her 5 different versions of events given to police. First, total denial. Then blaming Michael. Then admitting partial knowledge. Then finally admitting the plan. Each time she was confronted with evidence, she shifted her narrative. It's a classic sign of guilt. The jury watches her testify, watches her try to cry on command again, but this time, nobody is buying the performance. The grieving mother act has completely fallen apart. December 4, 2008. The jury returns from deliberation. They've been discussing the case for hours. Now they're ready to announce their verdict. The courtroom is packed. Media from all over the world are waiting outside. Inside, the tension is suffocating. The judge asks for the verdict on each count. Kidnapping. Guilty. False imprisonment. Guilty. Perverting the course of justice. Guilty. Both Karen Matthews and Michael Donovan are found guilty on all charges. There are gasps in the public gallery. Karen puts her head in her hands and starts crying, real tears this time, perhaps, realizing the game is truly up. Michael stares straight ahead, emotionless. They are both remanded into custody. The community of Dewsbury breathes a collective sigh of relief, but also of anger. The official confirmation that one of their own had played them for fools is a bitter pill to swallow. 2 months later, January 23, 2009, is sentencing day. The judge does not hold back. In a scathing statement, he describes the plan as wicked and dishonest. He tells Karen and Michael that they exploited a helpless 9-year-old girl for financial gain. He says they put a child through a traumatic ordeal and wasted millions of pounds in police resources. But most importantly, he highlights the betrayal of the community that rallied to find Shannon. The judge sentences both Karen Matthews and Michael Donovan to 8 years in prison. For many, it feels like a light sentence. 8 years for terrorizing a child. 8 years for a fraud of this magnitude. But it is the maximum sentence available for these specific charges. As they are led away to the cells, the chapter on the kidnapping closes, but the fallout is far from over. Meanwhile, there is a dark subplot involving Craig Meehan, Karen's boyfriend. Craig had nothing to do with the kidnapping plot. He genuinely thought Shannon was missing. But during the investigation, police seized his computer to look for clues. Instead of kidnapping evidence, they found something arguably just as disturbing. Craig had downloaded indecent images of children. Child pornography. 49 images at various severity levels were found on his hard drive. Craig claims he accidentally downloaded the images while looking for adult content. Nobody believes him. You don't accidentally download 49 specific images. In September 2008, he is convicted on 11 counts of possessing indecent images of children. He's sentenced to 20 weeks in prison but released immediately due to time served on remand. He becomes a registered sex offender and has to move multiple times as vigilante mobs chase him out of neighborhoods. It leaves a lingering question. Did Karen know? Was getting Shannon away from Craig part of her motivation, or just a convenient excuse she used later? We'll likely never know. The person most personally devastated by the truth is Julie Bushby, Karen's best friend. The woman who organized the entire community search effort. Julie had stood by Karen when everyone else doubted her. She had made the t-shirts, organized the marches, and held Karen's hand during the press conferences. When Karen is convicted, Julie's world collapses. She has to face the fact that her best friend used her, manipulated her, made her look like a fool in front of the entire country. Julie feels betrayed and humiliated. She poured her heart into finding Shannon. And it was all a lie. Every tear, every plea, every emotional moment was an act. Julie eventually stops visiting Karen in prison. She gives interviews about how Karen destroyed the community's trust. How neighbors now look at each other with suspicion. Julie Bushby is the tragic hero of this story, a woman with a heart of gold who was exploited by a woman with a heart of stone. And what about Shannon? The actual victim in all of this? Shannon is taken into care immediately after being found. She is placed with foster parents and requires extensive therapy. The trial revealed she suffers from nightmares, PTSD, and trust issues. She was drugged, restrained, and kept in darkness by her own mother's design. The psychological damage is immense. Shannon needs years of support to process the betrayal. Eventually, Shannon is given a new identity and a new name to protect her privacy. She is placed permanently with a foster family who provides the love and stability she never had. A special court order prevents anyone from her old life, including Karen and her siblings, from contacting her. She is now in her 20s, hopefully living a normal life, anonymous and safe. But she will carry the scars of her mother's greed forever. Karen Matthews serves 4 years of her 8-year sentence. Prison is not kind to her. In the hierarchy of inmates, mothers who hurt their own children are at the very bottom. Karen is frequently targeted. She is attacked multiple times, often appearing with black eyes and bruises. Julie Bushby, during her early visits, reports that Karen is terrified. She claims other inmates are putting crushed glass in her food and threatening her daily. She is released in April 2012, having served half her sentence, standard practice in the UK for good behaviour, though many would argue her behaviour was anything but good. Upon release, she is relocated to the south of England and given a new identity to protect her from vigilantes. She is banned from returning to Dewsbury and banned from contacting her children. She leaves prison not as a reformed woman, but as a pariah. If you think prison rehabilitated Karen, think again. In 2018, she gives a rare interview to the Mirror newspaper. Her words are shocking. She shows virtually no remorse. She claims she is innocent. "I didn't have a clue," she says. "Others were involved. I'm not Britain's worst mum." She tries to rewrite history, portraying herself as a victim of a miscarriage of justice, despite her confession and the mountain of forensic evidence. She complains about being lonely, saying her only companion is a pet budgie named Bobby. She says she's scared she'll die alone. She completely fails to acknowledge the trauma she inflicted on her daughter. This interview confirms what psychologists suspected. Karen is a narcissist. Even years later, her focus is entirely on her own suffering, not on the child she drugged and kidnapped. Let's take a moment to analyze why this plan was so incredibly stupid. First, the money. Karen didn't understand that reward funds aren't just handed over in cash like a lottery win. They require verification and police scrutiny. She would never have seen a penny. Second, the accomplice. Using your boyfriend's uncle to hide the child is the first place police will eventually look. The connection was too obvious. But the biggest flaw was Shannon herself. Shannon was 9. She could talk. Even if the plan had worked and Michael had released her, Shannon would have immediately told police, "That's Uncle Michael. He kept me in his flat." The entire scheme relied on a terrified child keeping a massive secret while being interviewed by professionals. It was doomed from the start. It was a plan born of greed and total ignorance. The shadow of Madeline McCann hangs over this entire case. Madeline went missing in Portugal 9 months before Shannon. The McCanns generated millions in donations and global sympathy. Many believe Karen saw that and thought, "Why not me?" She looked at the McCanns and saw a payday. She saw the teddy bears and the cameras and the funds, and she wanted a piece of that action. But the difference is crucial. The McCanns were grieving parents of a genuinely missing child. Karen was a con artist mimicking their grief. She weaponized the public's compassion. She exploited the natural human desire to help a lost child. It is chilling to think that someone could watch the news of a tragedy and see it as a business model. But that is exactly what Karen Matthews did. The Moorside estate was never the same. The community that rallied together was left shattered. Neighbors who had trusted each other now looked at everyone with suspicion. The hundreds of people who volunteered felt used. The businesses that donated money felt cheated. The innocence of the neighborhood was destroyed. The phrase, Moorside, became synonymous with the fake kidnapping. Property values dropped. People moved away to escape the stigma. Julie Bushby eventually left, unable to live with the memories. Natalie Brown moved away. The physical location remains, but the spirit of the community was poisoned by one woman's greed. Karen didn't just kidnap her daughter, she held a whole town hostage. Shannon wasn't the only victim in that house. Karen had 6 other children. When she was arrested, social services removed all of them. They were placed in foster care, given new identities, and in many cases, separated from one another. The family unit was annihilated. These children lost their mother, their home, their friends, and their siblings overnight. They had to restart their lives with strangers, carrying the burden of who their mother was. Some of them were old enough to understand what she did. They are the silent victims of this crime, the collateral damage of Karen's quest for £50,000. Looking back, the system failed Shannon long before she went missing. A child was being drugged with temazepam for nearly 2 years, and nobody noticed. Not the school, not the doctors, not social services. Karen had 7 kids by 5 fathers and lived in chaotic conditions, that alone should have triggered closer monitoring. Social services visited, but they missed the signs of deep dysfunction. They missed the drug use. They missed the neglect. Shannon slipped through the cracks until it was too late. This case forced a review of how at-risk families are monitored in the UK. It stands as a stark reminder that we need to look closer when children are involved. Karen Matthews lives in obscurity today, but her legacy remains. She taught us a hard lesson: not all monsters look like monsters. Some look like crying mothers on the evening news. Some look like your neighbor asking for help. Evil can hide behind tears. Karen fooled the police, the press, and her best friends. She was that good at lying. If you take anything from this, let it be this: listen to your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. And never forget Shannon Matthews, not as the victim of a hoax, but as a survivor who endured the unimaginable. If this story shocked you, hit that like button and subscribe to True Crime Stories by Pam. Share this video so we remember the truth. I'm Pam. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there. And remember, the truth always comes out, always.